Very good. Commissioner Tompkins.
Here.
Go ahead, Radio.
Lydia, you turned it all the way up.
I'm sorry, this is
Oh.
Commissioner Short. Commissioner Greeno.
He's still in the other meeting.
Derek, can you go offline for a little bit so we can talk about you some more?
Commissioner Short is here without radio interference in the background.
And Commissioner Greeno is here. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair and score.
I'm here. Very good. If you are so inclined and would stand with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll enter into a time of general public comment. Any member of the public can address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter that is on or off our agenda, and we'll give you 3 minutes to do so. Do we have any public comment this afternoon? I see a hand. Well, I did see a hand raised, but
Oh,
there.
there you go. You've got 3 minutes, Musashi.
Is my camera going to come on or not?
No, just audio.
Oh, bummer, because it's Elias Mavris from Point St. George. You guys missed the best view that you can ever have from this area. So that's a shame. Anyway, may I speak on other problems aside from the solid waste?
Well, sure. You got 3 minutes, Elias. You go ahead and share
Yeah,
whatever you'd like to
wait,
share,
yeah,
sir.
okay. So yeah, thank you. So thank you. So yeah, I've been still waiting for any contact from anyone from the police department, from the mayor, from anyone who's daring enough to come and see what's going on at Point St. George on my YouTube channel. It's going on daily, and things are just extremely, extremely dangerous out here. So, you know, the fact that nothing's happening and everybody's turning a blind eye, not one ticket for assault with a deadly vehicle or rocks thrown at me or noise pollution, car pollution, and dangerous activities. Nothing's happening, and the whole town's just quiet. There's nobody else but me just saying what I have to say out here. And I'm really just appalled at the response that I'm getting. I know everybody's quiet, but that's all I got to say.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mavris. We appreciate it.
Can I say something?
Sure.
We are in the process of setting up meetings with Fish and Wildlife, with the Del Norte County supervisors, with CDD and the Sheriff's Department. It's just trying to coordinate all those schedules just doesn't happen quickly. And I think I just talked to you last week, Elias, about that. And I know it's not going as fast as you'd like, but again, it's really difficult to coordinate all these different agencies with these meetings. So I do apologize. I will get back to you by the end of the week with where I'm at on that.
Okay, may I reply or no?
Well,
Okay.
it would be better, Elias, if you could just communicate directly with Commissioner Starkey, since it's really not a solid waste matter, if that would be okay, sir.
Yeah, there are a lot of solid waste humans out here. So it is a human waste problem.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any other general public comment? All right, we'll close public comment then, and we'll move on with our open session items. Under consent, we have the meeting minutes from December 21st, 2021 and January 12th, 2022, as well as requests for vacation for our director in February. Do we have anything on consent that we would like to discuss? If not, then I would take a motion to approve consent.
I saw Mr. Chairman, yeah, I would second that. And I would also like to somehow put in discussion this approval for the director's vacation.
Okay, well
But
then,
as for consent today, I will second the motion to approve.
well, if we're gonna discuss it, then we need to pull it.
It's not necessarily that item. I want to discuss in general the reason that the commission would need to discuss his approval for vacation.
Okay, well, we can talk about that in general terms, and Director Ward, if you just make a note of that during your report, you could talk about why we do it in that process. Would that be okay?
That would be fine. Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion by Commissioner Tompkins, seconded by Commissioner Short to approve consent. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and I'll ask Kira to please pull the vote.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Chair Score.
Yes. All right, we'll go ahead and move into item number 2, which is our director's report. And Director Ward, I'll turn it to you, sir. As soon as you get off mute.
Thank you, Chair Anscore. I'll start
You're
off by
welcome.
answering Commissioner Short's query, which is under my work agreement. Any vacation longer than 2 days, I'm obliged to try to seek the approval of the entire board for such vacation. If it's not feasible, say something comes up, I got a family emergency, then I'm to consult with the chair and then to report back. So if you want to change that rule, we can adjust the contract, but that's why I do it.
So you said your work agreement. So that's, I just question this, and I think I mentioned it prior to this meeting. I don't know if any of the county's appointed members, and having, experience on the city council, I don't know of any of the city council or the city's appointed members that require a approval from their governing board to take a vacation. So if we could possibly agendize this in the future with maybe, I don't know, some discussion that has happened in the past in regard to this segment of your contract, Mr. Word. I think this is very unnecessary piece that the authority needs to deal with. But I don't know the history on it. So if there would be,
I'd be happy to put that on a future agenda. The quick summary is that with a small staff, when the director's gone, it can potentially ripple through, and Kira can tell you all about that. Circumstances in which I've been gone, and she's had to work extra hard and with everybody else to try to solve whatever came up. So that's the context.
I completely understand. From an emergency services standpoint, it just seems to be that Murphy's Law happens whenever the fire chief wants to take a vacation.
Right.
There is a tsunami or a hazardous waste spill or something like that happened. But still, yet I don't know how this board would have any reasonable or informative decision-making power on, the director of the authority taking a vacation that starts in a month from now. So
Okay.
I would just like to discuss that with the commission. And as I say, I can certainly be corrected, but I don't know of a single appointed member of any appointed director in Delaware County or Crescent City that has to have their governing board approve their vacation. I think Mr. Ward does an excellent job. If he knows that something in the future is coming that needs him to be, attentive to the issue, I believe that he would do the right thing when it comes to taking time off. So if we could agendize that in the future, I would appreciate that. I think it's a kind of a waste of time for the management authority to consider.
All right.
Okay. Continuing on with the director's report, attached to the director's report is a spill response report. And I highlight this because that was a circumstance in which I was out of town, and Kira did a great job staying right on top of doing exactly what needed to be done, which is a rapid response. No oil from that oil spill ended up making it into any storm drain. So proper respect and appreciation for Hambro's crew, as well as Kira and the rest of our authority staff who responded to that. And the follow up with the paperwork, which is really important because this was above a reportable quantity. So we're actually obliged under state law, whenever there is such a spill, to make sure that it's reported promptly and through the correct channels. And everybody responded well in this case. So I'm really happy and proud of our staff, and you should be too.
Mr. Ward, what is that threshold? I know the CHP has a threshold of 42 gallons.
Yeah, it's much smaller in our case, but it's really I believe it's the amount that actually gets into the storm drain. And I need to look this up every time, so I don't want to misspeak. I think it's about a gallon though. And Kara, maybe you know
wow.
from looking up this more recently.
You know what? I also am not completely sure. It's a question that I asked the agents, the Cal OES when I called, and I believe also it's a gallon, but lots of stuff is going on. So.
And as we talked about before, we err on the side of over information and too much reporting, because it's a good practice to make sure that we know how to fill out those forms and what to do. So anyway, that was a good response.
Thank you very much.
Continuing on with other items that are on the agenda, I will remind everybody who's watching at home or paying attention to this, this is the month to bring in your holiday trees. We do take holiday trees for no charge here at the Delaware County Transfer Station. 1 tree per family. Please remove all tinsel and ornaments and decorations and flocking. It should be mostly green. If it's all white, then that's regular trash. And then if you're a Recology customer, they'll collect it from your house. Just call 464-4181 and make arrangements. But that program goes through the end of January. So we very much appreciate Hambro WSG and Recology for supporting that tree cycling program that we keep going each year. Also, since these are the winter months, I'll remind everybody that if you have a wood stove or a fireplace and can use some untreated wood, we do make that available to the community for no charge. So, of course, that's pallets and things like that. So there may be nails and there's some risk in gathering the wood and breaking it up. And you may need to dry it out a little bit, but good source of fuel and no charge. Commissioner Greeno, you had a question?
I did. As far as the holiday trees go, is there a size requirement on that? And do you have to chop it in half if it's over a certain length?
Excellent question. If you're a Recology customer, they do ask that it be in 6 foot or smaller. And so if you've got a bigger than 6 foot tree, cut it at 6 feet and wrap it together. And at the Delaware County Transfer Station, you need to be able to unload it yourself. And again, so 6 to 8 feet is about the length.
Okay, thank you.
And then I have a question about this. When you say untreated wood, that just brings up all sorts of things. Untreated meaning the stuff that doesn't have the chemicals in it, correct?
That's correct. So the untreated wood pile, we received untreated wood for a reduced rate at the Delaware County Transfer Station, and that can include nails and metal bits. But it's not chemically treated, it's not stained, it's not painted, and it's not particle board or oriented strand board. So any of those things that are laminates that have glues in them, or the pressure treated, or stains or paints, none of those things are considered untreated wood.
Thank you.
All right, continuing on. So regarding our audit and fiscal controls, we have been working with the auditor to finalize last year's audit and giving them the last bits of information they need. And regarding personnel, I'll remind everybody, we do still have some vacancies and we are still recruiting. So if folks are interested in becoming a gate attendant at the Delaware County Transfer Station, Gasky Transfer Station, or Klamath Transfer Station, submit an application to the Delaware County Personnel Department, and we'll be doing interviews in the coming weeks. And then also attached to the director's report is an annual report called Form 303 that summarizes the household hazardous waste that we managed during the past year. And we have primarily 3 programs that can receive hazardous waste. The first is the one that we don't want to receive it in, which is the load checking program. Hambro WSG essentially looks at loads, and if they find any hazardous materials that shouldn't be there, they pull them aside. And those are improperly disposed. The 2 categories that we like to have are the everyday, what we call recycling programs. We take used motor oil, antifreeze, non-aerosol latex and enamel-based paints, as well as used antifreeze, household fluorescent tubes, car batteries, all household batteries, and home-generated sharps. So all of those things are part of our everyday household hazardous waste programs. And then we have the one-day collection event. And that is a very good event, but it's also very expensive. So for about 300 cars, that event costs us approaching $45,000. So that's a summary of our annual household hazardous waste programs. And that completes the director's reports. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them. Otherwise, I will move on to the financials.
Questions? All right, let's go ahead and move to the financials then.
Okay, financials. In the bank, we have 1.436 million plus 198,000 for last month's rent. So our the cash flow is looking good. Once again, you look at our accounts receivable aging summary, and you can see that Kathy Brewer's keeping on top of our accounts, which we very much appreciate. If you look at the claims approved by director, once again, you'll see that the largest expenses go to Hambro WSG for the good services they provide at the Delaware County Transfer Station. And then we have additional larger expenses for the auditor and Lawrence and Associates, which provides some technical analysis of the water quality and gas collection data that Kira collects each quarter or 3 times a year or semi-annually, depending upon which category you're talking about. But Lawrence and Associates is the engineering firm that does that analysis for us and tells us how our aging landfill is impacting the groundwater. Then continuing on to financial reports, looking at our monthly totals, December is down compared to prior years and historically, but that's kind of expected. Things generally slow down in the winter months, and December was a particularly rainy December, so it's not really that surprising that our revenues are that far down. But compared to our budget projections, our revenues at the Delaware County Transfer Station are down 16,000 this midway point of the fiscal year, but our franchise revenue fees are 34,000 ahead of budget. So that balances out that we're 18,254 ahead of budget at this point in time. So our fiscal cycle is moving pretty much as we expect. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
If I could, who's Jeremiah Johnson?
He's a new employee.
Okay, because he's got a lot of mileage reimbursements and different things. So I was just curious. I haven't seen that name before.
Thank you for noticing that because it's important. Well, it shows you're looking at the details, but the reason why that is the way it is that until an employee becomes a permanent employee, they're not on the insurance and not able to drive the company truck. So until they drive the company truck, they get paid for mileage driving to and from the Gasky and Klamath transfer stations when they're on shift. And so we pay that mileage rate. And so that's why new employees tend to have larger mileage checks.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Short?
Mr. Ward, backing up to Lawrence and Associates, is there a reason that we do not contract with the city of Crescent City and their lab at the water treatment plant?
That is an excellent question that we've looked into several times, and I'd be happy to give you a more detailed answer. But the short of it is that the types of things that the wastewater treatment plant tests for are different than the types of things that the water quality monitoring at the landfill tests for. And so their lab is set up to do an entirely different suite of tests on a different schedule because they have their regular sampling schedule through the wastewater treatment plant. And our tests are done on more a quarterly basis, a semi-annual basis, a triannual basis, but and many of those tests have to be done on a quick turnaround. So essentially, we have to let the lab know these samples are coming. And they need to prepare the lab so that when those samples arrive, they can do the tests within 24 hours, because after that time is expired, the tests are no longer valid. So it's a close working relationship with the lab. And the two reasons why we can't work with the Crescent City lab very effectively are, one, the tests are different, and two, our timelines are really tight. And there's no flexibility on that. And so it would essentially be an ask for the Crescent City lab to take on the responsibility of doing these completely different tests, be ready to do them whenever we can pull the samples. And bottom line, that ended up being too much of an ask. So all labs are not created the same, and the Crescent City lab sampling the wastewater treatment plant is focused on that task.
I understand. Okay, so I see Chair Inscore nodding his head as I asked the question.
The reality is we could have done so when the lab was operated with 2 full-time employees, had we purchased the necessary equipment to be able to do so. The problem with that is the cost factor of being able to provide those services and those tests with the number of samples that would be tested and the reimbursement for that. It would have taken years upon years to pay for the investment to be able to do it. It is more cost effective both for the authority and for the city to send it to North Coast Labs. It's a great question, Commissioner Shorts, one that I asked 7 years ago, and it just simply didn't pencil out. The time frame wouldn't have been a challenge back then. It's different today because the wastewater treatment plant is under contract operations, and the lab is handled differently today. But back then, staffing would have been possible, but the investment in equipment and mediums and all the things needed was just too costly for the return for what we would be paid to do it. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you for the answer to the question. I appreciate that.
All right, any other questions? Okay, then we will we'll receive and file our financial reports. And we'll go ahead and move into our discussion items. We don't have anything on the landfill post-closure. We do have the financial statements for Recology that is a receive and file. Anything that you want to mention about that, Director Ward?
This is a standard report. I feel like the board should know that at various times the Recology has asked as an administrative relief to not have to do these audited financial statements, but essentially I discussed it with Treasurer Rich Taylor, and we concluded that it would be better to have this information on a regular basis since they're already under contract to provide it. And it does provide insights into how things are managed. Now, I want to understand, I want the board to understand this in context, which is Recology is a large company, and we benefit from that because there's equipment, there's expertise, there's training, and Recology generally is a good company and has a good company profile. And so I really appreciate everything they do, but having audited financial statements on a regular basis is a useful thing. And it tells you things like, in 2020, Recology transferred $795,863 from this community based on their receipts to the parent company. Now, the parent company provides services. I'm not questioning that, but that's part of the overall financial relationship that this agency is responsible for oversight. And so it's appropriate that you all know that.
Okay. Any questions for Director Ward? Any public comment on this item?
And again, while they continue to provide these services, and I did make that comment, I do think they do provide a good value for the money. And if folks are considering signing up for Recology services, again, I think it's a good value for the money. Give them a call.
All right, thank you. If not anything else, we'll go ahead and receive and file the Recology Del Norte financial statement for 19 and 20. We don't have any transfer station items, but we do have several things on our general solid waste matters. The first is the resolution 2022-02 for the application of the CalRecycle grant. Director Ward, do you want to walk us through this?
I would like to, if I might. And could I share my screen perhaps? And
Sure.
then I'll walk you through a PowerPoint that summarizes some of this. And let's see. Now, I may lose the ability to see you all, so I'll just listen. All right, y'all see that? So this is an edited version of a slideshow I presented before from CalRecycles, summarizing some of the aspects of SB 1383, which addresses short-lived climate pollutants in California, essentially changing the way we manage organic scraps, meaning yard and food waste, because when those are placed in the landfill, they generate methane, which is a more potent greenhouse gas. And so California has passed this law, SB 1383, that calls for everybody to change the way they've managed organic materials. And those requirements are greater in urban areas than they are here. For key compliance dates in rural areas, this year we need to establish an edible food recovery program. Thankfully, we've made some inroads on that, but that's part of what's going to happen this year. We're going to be doing education and outreach on this topic, and we have an initial report that's going to be due in April of 2022, and an annual report in October 2022. And in 2024, we need to have those additional requirements that you can see there. So in general, this is a graphic showing the categories of responsibility, including edible food recovery capacity in 2022, planning for organics recycling capacity in 2024, education and outreach, procuring recovered organic products, including mulch and compost. There are some organics collection services that are currently required by the end of 2026. Those requirements may change before that date occurs. And then we have monitoring and enforcement. So these responsibilities are not things that are entirely within the capacity of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority. Though we are a joint powers authority of the city and the county, we do not control their vehicles. We do not control their procurement. We do not control their environmental health departments. We do not control their parks and recreation departments. And all of these entities have a role to play in SB 1383 compliance. And so we're happy to help the city and the county departments that are doing things that are beyond our control to comply with these requirements, but it's important to recognize that we don't have the capacity or the control to be able to do this for everybody. So the first thing we'll be doing this year is establishing an edible food recovery program, almost certainly springboarding on the good food rescue program that the Donatal Food Council has established, and almost certainly incorporating the current activities of food banks. But these are some of the pieces that are involved in looking at building up that food rescue program. And so what is before you today is we're looking for approval to submit a grant application to CalRecycle. This is a little unusual in that the timeline is really tight, way tighter than we would normally anticipate. But the application needs to be submitted before the end of this month. And so this is the only time that we can seek approval in order to get this application in. And the trigger on this application is, in order for this to be funded, the city and the county each need to be adopting ordinances before the 1st of April. So I'll be happy to work with the city and the county, assuming that this is approved. But if the authority did not pursue these funds, the city or the county could pursue a smaller fraction. He could pursue a $20,000 grant, and the county could pursue a $28,128,000 grant, but then they would be responsible for administering all aspects of that program. So because our agency is trying to help the city and the county comply with this law, it seems to make sense that we would be the one applying for the grant, and that those resources would help build up the city, the county, and the authority programs in compliance with SB 1383. So the grant period goes between September 2022 and September 2024. And so if the ordinances are not adopted by April 1st, I anticipate this grant application, even if it was initially accepted, would not be funded. Additional funding is possible after that first round if we get our application in by February 1st. If not, those $48,128 would probably be reallocated and given to other communities that did get their application by February 1st. And this budget, because there is very, very little time in order to submit this grant, we anticipate that the budget will likely be revised as the grant activities progress. So that's an overview of that grant. So looking at what are the requirements of this ordinance, if I was a city council member or a supervisor, that would be my first question. Okay, we're supposed to adopt this ordinance, but what's supposed to be in it, right? So this is what we use to establish who's doing reporting and record keeping, who reports what to whom. How are we establishing a formal edible food recovery program? What are we doing in terms of organic waste procurement and recycled paper? Specifically, which departments are responsible for that, and how do they do the reporting to know that they're in compliance? And then there are additional requirements for commercial edible food generators that dovetail in with the edible food recovery program. And then there's details in terms of monitoring and enforcement. So all of those provisions would be detailed in the ordinance. And Mary Pitto, the authority contractor on this topic, would work with the city and the county to develop those ordinances. And we already have a template for those ordinances, but of course we want to make sure all the language is something that the city and the county respectively are comfortable with. So that gives an overview of what we're looking for this this application. Let's see, I'll stop my share at this point. So the staff are looking for the following actions: that the board direct staff to apply for this grant as an individual application. Funds received will be used to develop all aspects of the SB 1383 compliance programs, including those implemented by the authority, by county departments, and by departments of the city of Crescent City. Approve and adopt Resolution 2020-02, authorizing submittal of this grant application. Request letters of authorization from Delaware County and the city of Crescent City. And the letters of authorization could also be a resolution. It's pretty much however they want to do that. But they need to approve that we're okay to submit this application on their behalf. And the direct staff to work with the city and county so appropriate related ordinances are adopted by each entity prior to the 1st of April 2022, and review and suggest changes as appropriate to the draft memorandum of understanding. The memorandum of understanding that's attached was again drafted by Mary Pitto in consult with Randy Hooper, and the intent of that was to line out the respective responsibilities with respect to SB 1383. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So, Director, is getting this grant together by the end of the month, is that why you need a vacation in February?
Good question. Mary Pitto has been really great, and so is Kira, in that we look at what we need to do, we do a triage, and we divvy up the tasks and do what needs to be done. So I really appreciate Kira's support and doing everything that needs to be done, and Mary's support in helping us along with SB 1383.
Commissioner Starkey?
Yeah, I got lots of questions. So the one that I have is, have you talked with Randy Hooper? Because I believe that we are submitting our own grant application on approve a resolution authorizing Donor Solid Waste Management Authority. So maybe that's what it is, to submit a regional application. Okay, never mind.
That is consistent with the conversation I had with him. And
Okay.
that my understanding was that we would be submitting on behalf of the county, and those resources would be used to augment to build the county's program.
Okay, so I'm good
That's
there.
the way I understood it. Yes.
Okay, I'm good there. Approve the resolution. I'm good there. Direct staff for the appropriate ordinances. That's going to be a little bit more complicated. I think that's where we've been, I sat in on that meeting the other day and it was just kind of fly on the wall for that. But I think that's going to be the bigger discussion. I think that Randy believes that we already have a lot of these ordinances that will work. So we might be closer than what I think, but that's going to be the push. I think that we can do it, but we're going to have to be on this to get that done. And I never want to leave $28,000 of our share on the table, right? So if we can get it done, we're going to do what we can to get it done. My other question is that 20 or the 48,000 total? Is that all? It's going to the solid waste, but is that just for education? And what would you be using that grant money for, since the solid waste management isn't going to be the enforcer of it? What is it that you'd like to use that money for?
We would be using that to essentially establish the programs that we need to establish between September 2022 and September 2024. So some of that will be paperwork, the kinds of memorandums of understanding and the ordinances that you've seen that Mary's been working on. Some of that will be record keeping and laying out, building up the monitoring and enforcement program, for example.
Okay.
How does that work? What gets monitored by who and when? How does that reporting work? We do have specific outreach and education programs that we have to get done by specific deadlines, so that's part of it. But essentially what I had lined out in the PowerPoints of all the different aspects of those programs, we will be developing. So I don't think that these grant resources will be enough to cover all of those expenses, but those grant resources will definitely help defray some of those costs. And I think it would be wise to pursue them.
Okay, and then in approving this, are you saying that we are therefore approving this draft MOU? Or do you?
No.
Okay.
The MOU was a discussion piece to let you know the status of current discussions about who would be responsible for what, because I want to have everybody be as engaged as they're comfortable with on these issues, because they're complicated and there's lots of different moving parts.
Great. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you, Ted.
Yeah, I was going to say that I would make a motion as far as item 6.1. I would make a motion to authorize submittal of applications for CalRecycle grant and payment programs for which the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority is eligible, and stop it right there as far as 6.1 goes. The development of memoranda and of understandings and related documents, I am kind of unsure how we would be voting on those items. So as far as I go, I would make a motion that we adopt resolution 2022-02, just authorizing the submittal of that application. But I believe the memoranda of understandings and clarifying responsibilities for planning, implementation, monitoring, I think that's kind of a discussion that's going to kind of be ongoing.
The ordinances, to be clear, the direction you're giving me is not that you have any opinion about the ordinances to be adopted by the city or the county. Merely the staff is supporting those efforts, and that we would have Mary Pitto and myself work with the city and the county staff to try to make sure that the ordinances that get adopted check all the boxes. But we would not be in the driver's seat as to the content of those ordinances. We would just make suggestions about, here's something that would get us into compliance. But you're correct. This board has nothing to say about the city and the county actions.
So what you're saying, Darren, though, or Commissioner Short, is that 1 through 4, you're comfortable with making a motion to approve, but 5, you're not? Because I'm kind of there with you. And so I was just curious if that's what you want to do. 1 through 4 will get us what they need to do to go forward with this grant. 5, then we can leave on the table to have, because this is going to require so much more discussion and with people smarter than me on this. So I think that if that's what you were intending to do, I would agree with that.
I'm so sorry, Valerie. I'm scrolling through the.
Oh yeah, I'll just go real fast. 1 was direct
Real-
staff to apply for the grant. Boom, check.
Yeah,
2,
there we
approve
go.
and adopt the resolution authorizing that submittal. Check. 3,
Yes.
request letters from Delaware County and the city of Crescent City to support this grant. Check. 4,
Yes.
direct staff to work with the city and the county so appropriate ordinance are adopted by April 1st. Check. Leave off the review and suggest changes as appropriate to the attached draft memorandum of understanding.
Yes, thank you. I just got scrolled to that. Thank you, Valerie. You're exactly right. That was my intent in that in that motion.
Is that okay, Ted?
Yeah.
Then I'll
Okay,
second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2022-02 and to direct staff to apply, request the letters, and work with the city and the county on the appropriate ordinances. And we will address the MOU as we move through the process. Any public comment?
Yes.
Any other comments from the board?
No, I'll just say, I think that makes sense. The MOUs are going to be forthcoming when we go through this process. It makes sense to do it this way. So I agree.
But yeah, because while Commissioner Starkey is right, the county does in fact have some of these things in place that they can work off of and coordinating with a template. The city has none. So we're starting at 0. And in conversation with City Manager Weir about this, obviously we're even further behind when it comes to this. And so getting the ordinance obviously is the key piece, and then working towards what is the best way to address how we're going to accomplish all these things is secondary to getting the grant. So you guys are absolutely right. Okay, well, with that then, I will ask Kara if you will pull a vote. Did you have a question, Kara?
Nope.
Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes. All right, 6.2 is regarding the city application for the Clean California grant program. In our packet is a letter from City Manager Weir. Most of you are familiar with this, that we actually began talking about this first here. So I don't know, Director Ward, is there anything that you wanted to say about
I
that?
think this is a great project, and I staff recommend the board approve this letter for signature by the chair in support of the city's application for the Crescent City Greenway Revitalization Project.
Any questions?
Oh,
Yes.
great program.
Is there a map available of where the Greenway project is going to, where it's going to affect?
There are some initial maps, Darren. Basically, it runs from the entrance at the cemetery through that Cooper Beltway towards Harding.
Okay.
And so the city limits runs all the way to Harding, but the county property cuts back in on the north side there, and private property runs through there. The city's property doesn't reach all the way to Harding. So the property owned by the city is the actual project boundaries. And I'd be happy to get you some of the initial mapping if you'd like to see it.
No, I'm very good with that explanation. Thank you, Blake. That totally explains what we're talking about here. I appreciate it.
Any other questions, comments, public comment?
Now I'll move to approve that we allow the support letter.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Kara, pull the vote, please.
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes. 6.3 is the free and clear program that we're going to be partnering with Caltrans, Yurok Tribe, Recology, and Klamath in February. Director Ward, you want to give us an update?
Yeah, we're going to be getting a lot more word out on this, and assuming that this is that the board supports this direction. But under the Clean California program, Caltrans was interested in organizing some free collection events that would support the removal of materials that they find illegally dumped along the sides of the roads. So what made sense for staff as we were working through what might work here is bulky item collections. So what we've arranged, and we hope the board supports the approval of, is that staff work to establish Del Norte free and clear Clean California collection events in Klamath, Gasky, Crescent City, and hopefully somewhere in Smith River. And we'll plan on these across the county so that people don't have to make a special trip to just participate in the events. But as the board discussed last time, you're looking at 4 bulky items per vehicle trip. So you could get back in line if you want, but per vehicle trip, you got 4 bulky items. So that could be a mattress, a box spring, a water heater, and a tire, for example. But the idea is that from 10 o'clock until 2 p.m. at the Klamath Transfer Station on Sunday, February 27th, customers from Oric or Klamath come and bring up to 4 bulky items, and we'll take those for no charge. This is a logistical significant challenge, and so I really appreciate Kira's help on this, as well as Recology's looking at the logistics about how we can stage things so that we minimize double handling. As they've done these events in Lake County, they've been overwhelmed with enthusiastic participation by the community, and in some surprising ways. So, for instance, in Lake County, they take mattresses and tires for no charge every day at their facilities. And yet they were totally overwhelmed with mountains of mattresses and tires. So they take them for free every day. So the bottom line is these are new events, and we don't know exactly what to expect. And so we're not doing them all at once. We're doing Klamath first, and we really appreciate the participation and the support of the Yurok tribe, which will donate some staff to that day to try to help arrange with traffic. And we'll be working with Caltrans, of course, to try to facilitate traffic flows. But from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Sunday, February 27th in Klamath, from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. on March 12th, Saturday in Gasky, and then tentatively, we don't have dates yet for Crescent City, but we're looking at probably somewhere in May, probably before the end of June. But we will announce that. Everyone will know, and our intent is we're going to be doing these throughout the county, so you don't need to make a special trip. Okay. And you can make multiple trips on the same day, but four bulky items per vehicle trip. During those days, our transfer stations will also be open for our regular customers, but because of the traffic we anticipate for this day, if you can hold off on using the transfer station, that would probably be a good day to avoid just bringing your regular traffic, because traffic's going to be considerable. So staff recommendation is that that the board directs us to work with Caltrans so the cost for these collection events are covered with minimal additional expenses to the authority or its contractors. And just so you know, part of what we're thinking of is we're going to have a Recology driver there and some additional empty containers staged so that as one container fills up with bulky items, we can move that out of the way, move another empty that way. That way we don't have to handle these materials multiple times, because that's really what drives up your costs, is a big pile of stuff on the ground that you then got to pick up and move.
Lydia, I told you.
So we're trying to avoid that. So we recommend the hours that I just described, and outreach for these events will emphasize that these are one-time only events. We do not have plans to have future events like this. This is a cleanup event. If you've got materials stockpiled, please take advantage of these events to clean stuff up. But don't build another stockpile because we're not planning another event other
Fair
than
enough.
the 4 that I've just described. So we're going to try to, like I said, Del Norte, free and clear, clean California. That's the concept of these events. So this message is the one-time only event message is essential so as to not encourage people to stockpile trash awaiting another such event. And furthermore, there will be several events in Del Norte, so it's not necessary for customers to drive across the county to take advantage of this opportunity. I'd be happy to answer any questions about these plans or take feedback from the board.
Questions?
I will just say, I think this is a great opportunity for our community to get cleaned up and get rid of some of these bulky items. I hope everyone who has these bulky items will take advantage of this. You don't get this opportunity every day. So, and then as far as the motion, is it sufficient to just say move to approve the recommendations concerning the Del Norte free and clear and clean California events, or do I need to
That totally works.
every single one? Okay. Well, I move that we approve the staff recommendations concerning the Del Norte free and clear clean California events.
Great. Got a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Got a second from Commissioner Tompkins. Any public comment? All right, Kira, would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yeah,
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Chair Score.
Yes. Very good.
folks, I'd like to call a quick 3-minute recess if I could.
Okay.
Okay.
Take 3.
It's 4:55, so I'll let the chair know when it's 4:58.
Thank you.
All right, I think that we can go ahead and reconvene. Trust that Commissioner Short will be here quickly. We have 2 items left on our agenda, and then we have a closed session, which some of us have already tried to go to.
Yes, yes, I've been there. Nobody was there with me.
Me too.
I felt very lonely.
Yeah. All right. So legal services, Director Ward.
Yes, sir. So I believe Martha Rice will recuse herself on this particular item, but the short of it is that Martha Rice has become city attorney. And so we have just had a discussion with Bob Black, who's the other partner of Black and Rice. And so for continuity purposes, staff think it would be a good idea to continue with Mr. Black, though to be fair, I don't know that the firm Black and Rice will continue. I suspect it will be a different name, and this contract that's before the board is with Robert N. Black, the law offices of Robert N. Black. So I assume that is a different legal entity.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, then I guess I would take a motion that we enter into services with Robert N. Black to provide legal services for the Delaware Solid Waste Management Authority.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Val, you're muted.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? All right. Kara, would you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes. Last item on our agenda is to consider resolution 2022-03, which would authorize us for the use of teleconferencing in accordance with AB 361 for our next meeting. So the question to the board is whether or not you would like to approve this, providing the opportunity for us to be virtual next month, or not, which would mean that we would be in person. Obviously, with the opportunity that we had even this month of calling a special meeting, if in fact we got closer to the meeting and felt that it was prudent to be virtual. So what is the board's pleasure?
Ask another quick question. I know I asked it last time and I just don't remember what the answer was. If we enter into this approval for AB 361, can we still just we look at our numbers the day before and be like, yeah, we're good, and go in person? Or do we have to do it virtually?
No, because the way that the resolution is written, it's that we'll meet virtually for the next 30 days. So since it's by resolution, it would require further action of the board to change that decision. Also, if we did want to change that decision, it would need to be in advance so that the agenda could also properly reflect that, because it's important the agenda either say, in person or via Zoom or.
Okay. We had 118 cases today. I mean, that's just from the weekend. It was a long weekend, but I do think that, we're probably going to be on the rise. And if we're going to be the side of caution, and if we want to be able to meet, because I may get sick and then I couldn't come, I'm just going to say that we just enter into this resolution for another month and kind of keep things going. That would be my vote.
Okay. Other comments from the board?
I will second that motion if that's what that was.
It was fine.
Kind of a motion.
I just wanted to say, the thing about this current strain that we're experiencing is it tends to drop off pretty quickly. My understanding in South Africa is it lasted for, I don't know, between a month and a half. And then their cases just plummeted. I'm not saying I don't want to be safe and take precautions, but looking at our numbers and then looking at our hospitalizations, it just seems like we're not experiencing as many cases that are, should I say, severe.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Jason.
So
yeah, I don't think this is going to last very long, but I think for the next 30 days for this board to to meet is, and that's the reason I kind of seconded Valerie's motion there, was that, for the next 30 days, just seeing how it goes. I totally agree with you. I think it's going to drop off, because it seems as if the cases are relatively mild. I think, just moving in this direction, one more virtual meeting, I think is okay. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, there's definitely some reason to believe that it's not going to last very long. So yeah, I appreciate your comments.
Well, I was also going to say, why don't we just wait and see? I mean, I understand this is more convenient. We wouldn't have to have another meeting, but at the same time, I mean, the governor's order for, what is it? Social distancing, I think, is going to be expiring this month, right? Unless he re-ups it. Or is it up until February? I can't remember.
I wasn't aware of that. If we choose to not rule on this now, we would have to have another special meeting if we thought it was necessary to have a virtual meeting later on. Is that correct, Martha?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So I just don't want to overreact. You know what I mean? If this is going to be over in a week or two, why would we be having a virtual meeting? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I'll just reiterate why I think. I mean, yeah, this is, the girls here at work are out with it. And so while it didn't impact our board, we were all able to still meet with minus Supervisor Berkowitz because he's got some other issues going on. But if one of us on the board was to catch this, then we kind of stop business as usual. We stop it from progressing. So while I totally am with you, it's like it's a cold. I mean, the girls here, it's hitting them hard. I know I'm totally violating a bunch of HIPAA shit by telling you guys that, but I'm sorry about that. But at the same time, it's just, we got to look at, is it going to derail us moving forward with the business that we need to take care of? It's not that we can't, I could be in here, I'm in here with my electric blanket as it is because it's freezing, but is it going to stop business from moving forward? So that's the only where I'm like, yeah, we'll just keep going. I mean, I'm indifferent, to be honest. I'm fine doing it in person. I'm fine doing it online. I'm just trying to say, okay, what's going to be the least disruptive for the matters which need to be addressed?
no, I understand. It just feels like it's not an emergency at this point. And the wording in this is stating it's an emergency. And that was all I was stating.
Okay. Well, we have a motion, so we could just take the vote and then.
Yeah, the wording is based on how AB 361 is written. And so, any resolution that we have has got to be consistent with the legislation. And so I understand what you're saying. I guess just my 2 cents worth is just the numbers of people who are getting it and having to quarantine. I don't discount the fact that maybe people are not, hospitalizations are not what they were when we were at the height of Delta, but the volume of people who are just testing positive and at least getting marginally sick is very different this time around. It's just strange. My thought is I just want to be able to meet with all of us present, because I think it's always best if we can do that. And I think it's worth another month to make sure that we do that. I don't want to overreact either, but that's just my take on it. So,
Yeah, I
Michael,
totally
anything?
agree.
Oh, I'm sorry, Darren.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wondered if Michael had anything he wanted to share. Be better if
muted,
you
Mike.
shared it out loud. You're muted, Mike.
Every once in a while, the space bar quits working. I kind of like to hear the resolution again. I want to know what I'm going to vote on here, and I'm not sure I quite understand it.
Well, the resolution simply allows us to meet virtually for the next 30 days.
And that's what Valerie moved?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. I wasn't sure just exactly what she had moved. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I understand.
All right.
And just dovetailing off of what you just said, Mr. Inscore, just an example. My son had a close contact at high school. Never had a symptom, but guess what? He had to stay out of school for 10 days. So kind of in that same spirit, you know, if we are mandated to isolate or whatever, you know, among this Omicron variant, that even though it seems pretty mild, I do agree with you that it would be nice to have the complete lot of us here to hear all the input. I agree that, you know, hearing everybody's opinion is valuable, and the way to ensure that in these kind of questionable times is whether we're going to meet or not. You know, doing it virtually is not ideal, but it does get all of us here, I believe. So that is why I support this resolution.
And it gets the work done.
And I understand and I agree. It is better to have us all here, but I just wanted to make sure that we had that discussion in public about, you know,
Absolutely.
how we really do feel about this. To be honest, I think that our health officers need to figure out another way, because the way that they've been quarantining people in the past, I don't think it applies, and they need to figure this out. Society needs to function, and it can't function with a virus that is spreading like Omicron is. And yet Omicron is not as dangerous or potentially as dangerous as past variants. This is becoming endemic. I hate to say that. COVID is going to eventually become like the common cold. It's going to become like the flu. We're going to get past this. But at what point do we decide to start to change? And that's just what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Anything else? All right, we have a motion then to approve resolution 2022-03 by Commissioner Starkey and seconded by Commissioner Short. Any public comment? All right, Kira, would you pull the vote, please?
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Starkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Chair Score.
Yes. All right, that brings us to the end of our open session agenda. We are going to go to closed session, and you have a separate invite for that. It's in your email, and so we'll all meet there and try to get through that as quickly as possible, because Martha and Jason and I have another meeting starting here shortly. So, all right, we'll see you all there.
All right.
All right.
I'll text you, Kira, when we're about to reconvene.
Okay, Andrew, I'm leaving you now.
Okie dokie.
I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.